Hey everybody, my name is Mike Montgomery
And I'm Ashe.
and today we're going to be building this live edge coffee table with waterfall legs on Modern Builds. So today we're going to be building in Ashe's shop, and I guess first off, thanks for having us.
Of course, thanks for coming through.
Yeah, not only did Ashe mill the slab that we're using for this project, it's sort of his thing.
Yeah, this tree fell in the front yard. We got about 15 good slabs out of it. It died to beetles, so it had to come down anyway.
And I'm just going to give you a little spoiler alert. The grain and color and character out of this slab, which is white oak, is cooler and more unique than anything I've really seen. It's really, really beautiful. We're going to be trying a lot of new things throughout this video, stuff that I don't know how to do, but Ashe has a ton of experience with. It should be a ton of fun. So let's go ahead and get started. The slab we're using is just over 6 feet long and a little over 2 inches thick. And the first thing we did was remove the bark so this organic material on the outside of the tree doesn't cause the rest of the wood to rot. This comes off really easily with a sharp chisel, and we just worked our way down. The bark on slabs normally falls off as the wood expands and contracts anyways, so it's best to do it now. And while we did, we exposed a larvae of an emerald ash boring beetle, which is what causes all of these tunnels along the outside of the tree.
All right, and that's what causes all the problems.
Yep.
Something so small.
And then they get, there's probably some in there, but they're dead.
After that, I used a wire brush attachment on the drill to clean up all of the dirt and debris that was left, and then we were able to bring it back into Ashe's shop to get it prepped and flattened. We'll be utilizing Woodpecker's slab flattening mill, which uses a router and a large carbide bit to take passes along the slab, flattening it as it goes. It uses these rails to reference, and the carriage slides back and forth on them. Your first time using this jig. What if it doesn't work?
If it doesn't work, I'll cry. I think that's probably a good idea, right? First, it'll save me 5 hours on each slab.
Yeah.
The first slab I ever did, I put make a brand finish on it.
And good?
Oh,
okay, cool.
Great, yeah. And I tried to get more, and y'all were sold out. So.
Yeah, that tends to happen.
The carbide bit, you can kind of see down here. I don't want to take off more than like a third of it at a time.
As you can tell, the slab that we're using has a little bit of bow to it, and that's why the ends are sticking up off of the table about 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch. So the first thing we did was focus on one corner at a time to bring those high points down. With each pass, we took about 1/8 of an inch. Since this was the first time Ashe had used this jig and I was totally new to it, we didn't want to push it too hard. But it worked really great, and the cut quality was especially nice. While he was running the router on these first few passes, I just trailed behind him to collect up some of the dust as we went. From here, you can see how smooth of a surface that bit leaves, and man, it is really cool revealing that clean grain underneath all of the mill marks. After we took about 1/2 of an inch off the first side, we switched over and did the same to the opposite end of the slab, taking about 1/8 of an inch with each pass. In hindsight, Ashe and I both agree that it would have been best to take down these high points and then flip the slab over. That way we could have taken some of the meat out of the center of the slab on the bottom. No biggie though, we'll get them next time. Okay, so now 2 corners are done, and we're about to make our first full pass. You ready? Let's do it. By not flipping the slab, it gave us a little bit of a taper on each leg, which you'll eventually see. It also meant that we had a really thick slab in the center of the table where the top is. So really, I guess it would come down to preference on what you want to do. Ashe, this looks good, my man.
I'm a big fan.
You like it?
I love it.
Until you've done it, like you look at this and you have no idea that's under there.
Yeah, no clue.
Not at all.
It was worth the effort, that's for sure. All right, now that I've done, we've got 1 or 2 more passes. I'll let you give it a try.
Let's do it. In classic Mike fashion, I ended up lowering the bit a little bit further than we planned, and I started taking about 1/4 of an inch with this first pass. So after we realized that was more than we wanted, I raised it up a little bit, and I continued to move across the slab. That section where I dug in is getting cut off anyways when we square up the legs, so it's no big deal. And right here, I guess I'll give my quick review of this flattening jig. As you guys know, I've made a couple of my own in the past. I would say the results that you get out of this aren't particularly better than a DIY slab milling jig, but it runs and tracks way more smoothly than any other jig that I've built. If you're familiar with woodpecker's tools, then you know none of them are particularly affordable, but they work really well.
That's so sick though, it looks amazing.
Oh my god.
It's dead? Dead on?
That's perfect.
1-800-SUPER-PRO!
Wow.
And really quickly, before moving on, I'd like to give a big thanks to the sponsor of today's episode, Squarespace. If you need a custom website, online store, or just a domain, Squarespace is your one-stop shop. And the best part is, you need zero website building experience. Squarespace's library of built-in designer templates look incredible right out of the gate. But all you need to be able to do to make a custom site is upload images and drag and drop and edit text blocks. Plus, Squarespace sites are designed to look great on desktop, tablet, and mobile, no matter where customers find you. To learn more, be sure to follow the links down in my description where you can get a free trial and build your own Squarespace site without entering any of your credit card info. And then, when it's time to make your website live, don't forget to use my code, ModernBuilds, for 10% off your first site. One more time, that is ModernBuilds for 10% off your first site. Big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode. Now back to the build. To remove all of those ridges in between passes, I loaded up 100 grit sandpaper onto Ashe's Festool Rotex sander. And the Festool Rotex, along with other Festool products, are so great because they have an incredible dust collection, which I'm really looking forward to using. But for hearing protection, I am going to be wearing these. These are my plug phones, and they are OSHA approved hearing protection and Bluetooth headphones in one. They've got an extra long battery life, so I can wear these all day when I'm building. Plus, they are super loud. Normally, I have the volume on 3 out of 10. Seriously, plug phones is an amazing long-term sponsor of mine. Plus, they make an incredible product. So make sure and follow those links down below. And if you use the discount code ModernBuilds at checkout, you will always get 15% off. I saved all of the finished sanding for later, so our next step was to trim our legs square. This is gonna also give us our reference for the waterfall edge that we create next. And if you haven't caught on yet, Ashe uses quite a bit of Festool gear, so we used his track saw to trim those pieces to length. For the most part, I use a lot of affordable and accessible tools, so it was kind of fun getting a chance to hop into his shop and basically use all of the expensive versions of what I typically use. On the opposite side of the slab was where we had the most taper, but we did remove a lot of it with this cut. So I just want to reiterate so that I can jump in front of the comments and say, I probably would have flipped the slab over after we flattened out the two sides of the slab first. Next, we set the saw to 45 degrees and planned out our waterfall cuts for 16-inch tall legs. Standard coffee tables are about 18 inches high, but I like a little bit lower profile on the majority of the furniture I build, other than dining tables, of course. As you can see, the saw couldn't quite get through the whole slab, so we used a Japanese pull saw to finish out the rest of the cut. We'll come back later with a hand plane to clean those up, which I'm excited to learn how to use. To achieve a good grain wrap or waterfall edge, all you need to do is make a 45-degree cut in the opposite direction on each leg piece, and that's what you see me doing here. Smooth. With one side done, it was just time to rinse and repeat those exact same steps for a symmetrical leg on the opposite end of the slab. And now our tabletop has the correct miter on each side, and we just need to cut our final piece on the leg. A track saw here totally isn't necessary, but I understand how that sounds as you're watching me use one here. I've done grain wrapped miters on plywood before with a circular saw, just never boards this thick. The upside to using a track saw is definitely the cut capacity that you get when you have it angled at 45 degrees. I think you get an extra 3/4 of an inch, maybe a ½ inch out of it. This is a Japanese plane. Some people call it a pull plane, but it's what we're going to be using to flush up and smooth out the miters where we had to use the handsaw to finish the cuts.
Wow, those are great.
It's a little bit thick. Shavings should be a little bit thinner than that, but for our purposes, it's okay. So you can kind of feel a little bit still. So keep going.
I don't use hand tools very often, and the reason is because I've always gotten mixed results when I try. but it was really cool having someone in person there showing me the right technique and instructing me as I went. So after Ashe did the first 2 miters on the leg pieces, I took over and I cleaned up the miters on either end of the slab.
Wow.
That edge is probably really sharp. So be careful.
I can tell you one thing, it was really rewarding and pretty satisfying getting those cool, clean shavings, especially out of oak end grain, which is apparently pretty tough to plane cleanly. I don't think I'll be converting into a hand tool guy anytime soon, but this was super fun.
Super pro.
We're gonna try and get rid of these marks as much as possible and bring everything down to this smooth finish. I actually think I like doing it right-handed.
Yeah.
Just right-handed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like doing it right-handed. As you already know, the bottom of the slab is still rough sawn, so I used this as an opportunity to get a little bit more practice and reps in using the hand plane.
Hey,
Wow.
that's good. Yeah. So that's what you want right there.
Real quick, let me say, I feel like an idiot because I must have forgotten to click record on the first section of this glue up, and all I have is this final clip. So I'll let this dry overnight, and I'll come back tomorrow, give it a quick sand, and apply some simple finish. Woo! As you can see, we use these right ankle clamping jigs from Rockler on the outside of the slab since those are our most flat and square reference surface. I also used a bunch of masking tape around the corners to help reinforce all of our joints and keep them aligned. The width of a live edge slab can vary quite a bit over a length of 2 or 3 inches, which is what we cut away whenever we made our miters in opposite directions. So I just sanded this one corner down with the Rotex that gave us our biggest problems, but you'll see later on that this totally blends away and looks completely natural with finish on it. Overall, our miters were super clean and they were lined up very nicely, so I just had to sand them for a second to get them nice and square. Then I filled any of these tiny little voids with a mixture of sawdust and wood glue and then sanded those flush. For the live edges, I wanted to avoid using the power sander, so I just sanded by hand to keep as many of those bug tunnels and that unique character that this slab has. As always, I threw on a couple of coats of Simple Finish, which is from my company, Maker Brand, and it really made this wood sing. The grain really popped and the color became super rich. All you have to do is apply 1 coat of oil and allow that to penetrate for about 15 minutes. Then you apply a second coat the same way, and after that coat sets for 10 or 15 minutes, wipe off any of the excess. And with that, this table is done. Live edge furniture is really hard to take credit for because so much of the beauty and so much of the character is just coming from the wood itself. So I want to give a big shout out to the tree that this slab came from, and of course a big shout out to Ashe for taking the time to slab this tree up. As you can tell, the taper on the legs isn't too dramatic. In fact, it really blends away whenever you're looking at the piece from a distance, but it meant that we were able to have a really thick slab for the tabletop section, which I really like. And this slab had it all. This cool bark inclusion on one leg, proper burl on the other, and straight, consistent grain throughout. The color and stripes are very unique, something that you really don't see out of white oak very often. And like I said, I could not be more excited with how it came out. So thanks a ton for watching, everybody, and thank you, Ashe, for letting me into the shop, teaching me some new stuff. This was really a ton of fun, and I love the way it came out.
Of course, you're welcome.
Yeah, so don't forget, like, comment,
And subscribe.
and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. Bye, everybody. Oh, you have anything you want to plug or link?
Yes. Shout out Mom and Dad. Thank you for all your help and motivation.
Yeah, and I guess thanks my mom and dad too. Y'all are great. All right, bye.
Shout out moms and dads.
All of them.
All of them.
All right, bye.